Go ahead, Merle.
All right, thank you. Hey, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy 2021 and goodbye 2020. Definitely was very happy to see 2020 leave. But thank you so much for joining and taking some time out of your busy week. I know we're only into week 2 of the new year, but I know everybody's busy. And thanks for joining tonight, ATW's first program. Kavita, can you show the slides, please?
Turning it on.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, while Kavita brings up the slides, I just, oh, here we go. Thank you, Kavita. And maybe presentation mode, and it'll be the second slide, please. So thank you everyone for coming, as I mentioned, and welcome. We're so glad to have you here. And a special thank you to our speaker, Khristy Young from SoftwareONE. We're just delighted to have Christy here, and she's speaking from California, by the way. And we're having more of a technical program, so this will be most interesting and most fun. She's going to be talking about powering the new digital workforce with intelligent automation. So welcome. And welcome to our guests and new members and to our ATW membership. Next slide, please. ATW, we are changing the face of technology with women. And welcome to the big house. Welcome to our big virtual house and community where the mission of ATW is to increase the number of women in leadership and strengthen the pipeline of girls entering the technology fields. And we do this through our educational programs, our leadership development programs, our scholarships, and really a lot of networking for our members, partners, and our community for all generations. And so throughout 2020, and certainly for 2021, we remain anchored in our mission during this unprecedented crisis. And we're certainly very hopeful that 2021 is going to be looking different. But we're anchored in our mission and we're anchored in our values. Next slide, please. And thank you to our partners. This is what we fondly call our logo soup slide. We are just so delighted to have so many names of companies and organizations that support ATW and our mission of strengthening women in technology. So thank you to all our sponsors. You've kept us going. You were there during 2020. And from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of the board, just a very, very heartfelt thank you. Next slide, please. And this is the fun part tonight. I am so delighted to be the first one to introduce our new board, 2021 DFW ATW board. So as you can tell, it's not a different structure, it's our same structure. This represents all of our various committees. And as I go through the introductions tonight, I encourage you to take a look at the committees and become active and involved in ATW. Wherever your heart, wherever your passion may lead you. Please go to the next slide. And so before I introduce our new team, I'm just wanted to share with you what makes this team so great. And you may not know, but I'm a huge fan of the NBA. And so as we do for a lot of things in our life, we sometimes use sports analogies. And so I reached back into my love of the NBA and basketball. And when I started to look at great teams and great players, you think of Michael Jordan, you think of Larry Bird and LeBron James and the new players such as Kyrie Irving coming up in the league. And these players make their teams great and their teams make them great. So what is it about these guys that makes them so great? Well, it's their leadership on and off the court. They play as a team. They know when to pass the ball. They know when to shoot. Sometimes, hopefully, most of the time. But most of all, they've been surrounded by great people and great players who really knew what their job was, and together they won as a team. And they were just, at the end of the day, history recorded them as a great team. And so it is with this board that you and the leadership of this board has a great team. And ATW this team will take ATW into the future. So with that, I'm delighted to introduce Shanti Rajaram as our new president, Aries Webb Williams as vice president, Valerie Davis as our new treasurer, and Satvinder Kaur as our new secretary. This is your executive team. These people are responsible for the fiduciary and the legal aspects and the governance of the organization. And joining the executive team are great board members that bring a lot of talent in their respective committees. For the membership committee, we're delighted to have Lisa Jordan join our team. Jeannie Ararudin, apologies for mispronouncing your name. She's going to be heading up our programs team. Suzanne Mallet, Great Minds. Kavitha Ramesh, Director of Operations. Juliet Odima, Director of our Professional Development Team. Dr. Pat Conley, Director of Partnerships. All right, Mani Jana Lagada, and please, apologies again, Director of Recognition and Advocacy. And Paula Phillips, Director of our Marketing Team. This is an outstanding leadership team, and I'm just delighted to have the chance to announce them tonight and be part of this team. Next slide, please. So cheers. Cheers to the new team. Cheers to 2021. Please join us for our networking and social hour right after our program. We hope to see you back in networking at the tables. Next slide, please. And our first new member orientation, of course, it's still virtual. It's going to be January 22nd. Please join us, all new members, for additional introductions, information, and come and meet some of the board members, the new board members as well. So looking forward to seeing you on January 22nd. Next slide, please. And we have a great program coming up in February, chronicling our wildest dreams, past, present, and future, which will be interesting because I don't even remember my dreams. So it'll be good to hear Kevin Green Sr., certified coach and career consultant, launch into greatness. So be sure to join us in February. Next slide, please. And thanks to our program spotlight speakers and program sponsors, Red Hat and Young Women's Preparatory Network. These are our spotlight series where ATW has a chance to shine and showcase our partners that we work with throughout the community. And to introduce YWPN, here's Christy Bonner. Thanks, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christy Bonner. I am the former vice president of DFW ATW. Sounds weird to say, but I am super excited for the new all-star team that we have coming on board, and I'm so excited about the energy that they're going to bring to this. Kavitha, if you'll go ahead and just bring that back up in full screen, I'm going to introduce this organization, and then I'll bring our speakers on stage as well. So we had the opportunity this past year to get introduced to the YWPN group through one of our board members, Pat Connolly. And they are a great organization that is responsible for, they partner with public school districts to create and support an innovative all-girls college preparatory public school system. And through these schools, they ensure that their young women graduate from high school prepared to succeed in college and ultimately their careers. And it's just a phenomenal organization. And through our connection with them, it just ties in great with our STEM connections and our Great Minds program. And so I'm I'm thrilled to be able to introduce them, but 1 second before I do, I also want to give you just a little bit of technical help for those of you. Welcome, by the way, all of our new faces and new members. If you need to see the slides in bigger mode, there is a little icon at the top of the screen that's 4 arrows. If you click that, you'll see the screen in the bigger mode, so it doesn't look like it's an eye chart for you. And then after we're done, you'll go back to your tables to be able to network and enjoy the fun of the tables. Pop around and visit with other people, get to know other people. That's what we are known for, is our networking and great community. So I hope you enjoy that. So with that, I'm going to introduce Patty Lyondecker, who is the Chief Development Officer for the Young Women's Preparatory Network, and also Sienna Guerra, who is an alum of the fantastic program. And Kavitha, if you, we also have a infographic for the group, and I will drop it in the chat for you. And Patty and Sienna are going to talk about their organization. So I'm going to drop off the screen while they're talking, and then we'll come back when they're done to introduce another little bit of exciting news. So take it away, Patty.
Thank you, Christy and Marilyn. Thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of this amazing program today. We are thrilled to be here. I'm Patty Lyondecker, the Chief Development Officer at Young Women's Preparatory Network, and I'm joined today by one of our outstanding YWPN graduates, Sienna Guerra. I wanted to start off by sharing a little bit about YWPN. We are the largest network of public all-girls college preparatory schools in the nation. Our first school, the Irma Ronhell Young Women's Leadership School, was founded 16 years ago in Dallas and is the first public all-girls school in Texas. Today, we have a total of 10 schools, including Aldine outside of Houston, Austin, Fort Worth, Grand Prairie, Houston, Lubbock, Midland, San Antonio, and Isleta, which is right outside of El Paso. Girls who attend our schools come from low-income households, and in many cases, their parents did not complete high school. If you believe the statistics, our girls aren't supposed to graduate high school, much less think about college. Yet the model we have employed creates a much different outcome with 100% high school graduation, 100% college acceptance, and alumni who graduate from college at 3 times the national average for students in high poverty high schools. So how do we accomplish this? We provide our girls with a top-notch STEM-focused education that prepares them for college and careers in STEM-related fields. Our model includes rigorous coursework, which is college-level academic coursework, including AP participation, which prepares our students for post-secondary education. College admissions advising. A counselor solely focused on college admission is the support system that gives students the confidence to pursue the college major and career path of her choice. Confidence building experiences. Our excel in STEM fields because our all-girl classrooms provide the unique opportunity for young women to operate outside of any perceived societal gender biases. Like Sienna are a great example of the power of a YWPN education. So Sienna, I know that you started at your YWPN school in 6th grade. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in coming to YWPN.
Great. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Sienna Guerra. I just wanted to thank everybody for the opportunity to be here. I'm a junior at St. Mary's University, studying mathematics with a teacher certification in secondary schools. My background at YWPN is that my father wanted a great education for both my older sister and me. And when he found out that YWLA SA was coming to SAISD, he thought it was the perfect fit for us. We went from 6th to 12th grade, and it was the best thing for us.
Well, what are some of the things you learned at YWPN that got you to where you are today?
Well, first of all, YWPN gave me a big sisterhood. It gave me a lot of best friends, and it's something that I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life. It also gave me a great education. In 6th grade, we took science enrichment courses. We also were provided with technology courses, being taught how to type and take Microsoft Word, Excel, and everything like that. Upper level math courses, and we had the opportunity to take AP courses, dual credit courses to help us in our universities.
Well, tell us about how college is going and your plans for after graduation.
Well, college is great, knowing that everything's virtual. We're all a little more tech savvy than normal. That's what I like about it. And it's also making me realize that we can get an education both in the classroom and out of the classroom. So that's what I like about it. And also, I plan to graduate May 2022. I plan to be a post-secondary schooling teacher with a basketball coach, maybe, that I do like basketball as well. And hopefully giving back to YWLA SA as a teacher there.
Well, great. Thank you, Sienna. It's amazing to watch the transformation of our girls into confident, self-assured young women who believe in themselves and their abilities to accomplish great things, despite what those on the outside may not think are possible. Our students exceed academic expectations and prove that all students, regardless of background or socioeconomic status, can excel if given the right opportunity. Sienna is just one of thousands of wonderful examples of what can happen with a YWPN education. Thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of today's presentation. We truly appreciate the opportunity to be able to share more about YWPN and have you meet Sienna so you can hear about YWPN directly from one of our students. All of this is possible thanks to a public-private partnership model that utilizes private dollars to enhance public school district curriculum. Thanks to the help of our generous donors and supporters like ATW, we are making sure more girls like Sienna become the best they can be. So please join us in helping reach more girls across the state by, if you are inclined, making a donation at youngwomensprep.org. I just want to thank Christy so much for this wonderful opportunity. We are very grateful. Thanks.
You are welcome. We are so excited to be a partner with you. Awesome job, Sienna.
Thank you so much.
And they have an upcoming event. It's going to be on their website. I'm going to post it in the chat here in a second. They have their 4th annual STEAM challenge. So you might ask yourself, well, how can I get involved with this great organization? Well, volunteer. So I'm going to post it in the chat. You can check out their website. But to talk more about that private funding for the public initiative, I'm going to introduce our new board member, on and talk about an exciting new scholarship opportunity that we are providing for YWPN. Pat, please join us on stage. And Patty, you might want to join us back, stay on stage for this, because this is some great news for your organization. And I'm going to drop off, and everybody have a great meeting.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here, and I'm really excited to share something with y'all tonight that Marilyn and I have been working on for, gosh, well over a year. I know that there's a slide that we put together for this, and want to make sure that everybody's able to check that out. So a little bit of background on the scholarship. The awards are given by my company, SMC Squared, and the Connolly family on a national level, but here locally, we're really excited to be partnering with DFW ATW, and just think it's a phenomenal fit for the premise of the award. We've named the award the Max Scholarship, which brings a lot of attention in itself, but it's really named for a woman that has vision and passion and heart and intellect, and has always delivered that in raising up talented young women. So I've experienced it as many others have as well. So Marcella Connolly was a VP at Blue Cross Blue Shield in the 1970s, and you'll see a picture of her here. She was the only female executive in rank at Blue Cross Blue Shield in the United States at that time. She was outspoken and driven, yet with a very loving and super generous heart. She both propelled her career and inspired many, including me, to embrace a bigger vision for yourself, your career, your passions, and definitely to have an impact on the world. So she impacted and demonstrated her values to everybody. So it was a very easy choice to name this scholarship after her. We nicknamed her the Lioness because she was the matriarch of the family, but also just a true advocate for education and professional growth and a life of service. So there you have a little bit about Marcella Connolly. The scholarship itself targets young women, helping them to achieve their educational journey in STEM. So it's pretty specific. And for 2021, I'm very pleased to announce that the local scholarship, partnered of course with DFW ATW, will be awarded to selected graduating seniors from the Young Women's Leadership Academy in Dallas, part of the network that you just heard about. We'll be presenting the scholarship to the scholarship recipients at a future ATW meeting, so we'll be back to share more good news. And just really excited that we finally get to make this announcement. And thank you to Patty and her team and everybody at the school and the network for being such great partners and sharing the story and the passion and the vision. And thanks to Marilyn as well for being my partner as I've walked down this road here with y'all. So with that, I'll give it back to Marilyn.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Pat. I am so glad that I've had a chance to see this come to fruition, because I remember quite a few meetings and having wine and discussing this back in the day when we could get together. So this is awesome. And I'm just looking forward for the future for the MAC scholarship. With that, I think I need to see the next slide, please, before we continue in our program here. Oh, I see it already. Oh, I'm just delighted. Our second Spotlight series is focused on Red Hat, one of our premier partners as well with ATW. And I'm just delighted to introduce David Little. He's a sales director for the South Central region for Red Hat. And he just joined ATW, everybody. And we're just delighted. ATW is not exclusively for women. And we have about 15–20% of our membership are men. We welcome men. It takes all of us to move forward in technology. And I'm just very excited to be the one to introduce David. And with that, David, tell us a little bit about you and Red Hat.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I am David Little. I'm a sales leader here in the Dallas area for Red Hat. Have the pleasure to be a peer of Miss Lisa Danzer, who is a longtime ATW member. And I just wanted to give some context to why why ATW for me, why I'm investing my time and effort. And I've had a lot of inspirational women leaders over the years in my life, and one that's kind of core to me is my mother. She passed away 11 years ago from breast cancer. But she was really kind of the leader in our family, model for success, from work to relationships to unconditional love, and discipline. She had some trials and tribulations, and one of those was from my grandfather. My grandfather was great in a lot of different ways, but he had some deficiencies in enabling and promoting, and came from a different era there, but unfortunately, but he didn't believe in women attending college. And my mother was a really great student, and ultimately, she had to overcome that on her own at a later point in time. She did overcome that. She ended up going part-time for many years while raising a family, while having a full-time job, and ultimately graduated from NC State University in '95. On the flip side of that, I've got a 13-year-old daughter named Briar, and she's in 8th grade going into high school next year. And, it gives me the opportunity and the goal and a driver for me to really be a quality model for her. You combine that with deep passion for technology. I've been in technology for north of 20 years now. and here we are. I put some of my core leadership principles here. Background on LinkedIn, I'd love to connect. I've been with the leadership team Red Hat for about 8 years now, and let's switch to my next slide.
Are you sharing a slide? We don't see yours. If you are, we don't have your slide.
Am I sharing out mine? Sorry. Let me jump to that, and we'll get there in 2 seconds. All right, there we go.
Okay, I was gonna say, Marilyn, if you want to turn your camera off, you can as well.
All right. All right, so nice picture of my mother. And let me jump to the next slide. Let me plug Red Hat for a little bit, because I think Red Hat is way ahead of the curve in promoting women. Being an open organization, the culture and the foundation of the company has been all about inclusion, collaboration, and I'm very proud of working for this company for the past 19 years and what we do across the world, to really not just enable women, but really equal rights in general. For those of you who don't know Red Hat, we're the leader in open source software. We essentially make open source projects consumable to the enterprise through subscriptions. We've evolved the company from an operating system company to the leader in open hybrid cloud. We do that foundationally through 2 key automation platforms that run on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which is about 70% of the paid Linux market share worldwide. Really, that enables any app, anywhere, anytime. We do that through OpenShift is one of those platforms. It's a common platform that automates Kubernetes and containers and accelerates Java development, enables you to write once or refactor once and deploy anywhere, literally bare metal, private, public, hybrid, edge, you name it. We've got over 2,600 customers now on the platform worldwide and growing at an extremely fast rate. We also bought a company called Ansible in 2015 that provides an automation platform. It's simple, agentless IT, covers infrastructure, applications, networks, containers, security, cloud. Both of these platforms are leaders in Forrester Wave, and we own about 44% of the leading market share in container space today. And that's really what drove IBM to buy us in 2019 for $34 billion. It's the largest software acquisition to date and 7 times larger than any IBM acquisition to date in their history. They did leave Red Hat as a separate entity, and a lot of that is because of the ecosystem and partnerships that we have to maintain and grow. With that said, we've got key partners like SoftwareONE, who I think is participating tonight. They're an advanced partner of Red Hat, an IBM partner as well. They're certified on all those platforms. And, just a reference point, as we're approaching our 80th quarter of consecutive growth, they also doubled their revenue from a Red Hat perspective from 2019 to 2020. I've provided some links here. There's a great Omnitrax reference. That's a local DFW company, goes through their digital transformation. A recent acquisition of StackRox as well. It's around container security. And then an introduction to our global transformation team. These are folks that have literally written the books on DevOps. Folks like Andrew Schaefer, John Willis, Kevin Bear. Love to get those folks introduced to your organizations and really evangelize DevOps. The top article in this slide is one of extreme interest. I'm a avid outdoorsman and a hunter, and I read an article right before the break, and I'll just read it out loud. Ancient remains prove women have been running shit for at least 9,000 years. The meat of this article, number one, it's one of the most viewed articles that I've ever posted on LinkedIn, and one of the best feedback articles that I've ever posted. And it counters that men were hunters and women were gatherers, and actually proves that women had much more of an equal right and equal role years ago. So, you know, the 1950s are gone. I talked a little bit about Forrester Wave. This is kind of Red Hat's position in that as a leader in IBM. And with that, I just wanted to thank everybody and thank you for the opportunity and the consideration to have me. Obviously, you can tell I'm passionate about Red Hat, passionate about our company, and I look forward to the growth for myself here with this group, and hopefully adding value, you know, from my experiences as well. I did supply some links as well of some key things that Red Hat and IBM have done to support women in technology as well. Some of those are, you know, we've done events supporting 6th grade girls in technology as an example, and gone across the country and done those at various schools, you know, and we've participated in with BNSF with their TAD scenario. So there's, you know, some good pieces there. With that, I will turn it back over to you, Aries, and thank you again for your time, and look forward to meeting the group and participating in 2021.
Thank you, David and Red Hat, for your continued support and sponsorship. Lisa is always, you know, she was a former president of ATW, so she's always advocating for us out everywhere. Give me one moment here, make sure we're all good. All right. You can feel free to turn your camera and mic off. Thank you. All right. So if you have any questions for David after the program, head over to, there is a table with a red hat on it on the floor by the on the left side. Once we go back to the floor for networking, they will be there to answer any questions that you might have. So I'm super excited. I'm always super excited. I miss ATW. I love that we have Remo now. So it kind of gives us that feel of the real life networking that we're used to. That was our claim to fame. Y'all know we were known for our networking. So I'm also very excited to introduce our speaker tonight. So Khristy Young, she is a practice leader and global product owner for SoftwareONE's intelligent automation practice. Shameless plug, I also happen to work there, as well as Lindsay Russo, who's out in the audience. So Khristy, you'll find she's going to be a plethora of knowledge. She's has a demonstrated history of working in the information technology and services industry, skilled in software development, staff for business, unified communication, SQL, IVR, and contact center. So please join me in welcoming Khristy Young as she just schools us. She's been schooling me on this intelligent automation platform. She's coming to us from my hometown in California. I'm so glad we're able to have you. So welcome to ATW, Khristy.
Good evening, everybody. I am so honored to be here. And quite honestly, I'm a little jealous that we don't have this in Southern California. I was actually just talking to a few of you that I wish that they had something like this that really supports women in technology. Obviously, we're also a part of Women in Technology and SoftwareONE, but this local feel is really something that we're missing in California. So before I begin, and let me just go ahead and share my screen before I start talking. There we go. Hopefully you guys can see it. All right, perfect. So before I begin, thank you so much, Aries, for your introduction. I do want to give you a bit of context and background on who I am, what my skill set is, and why I'm actually qualified to talk to you about intelligent automation. So as Aries mentioned, I've been in software development most of my career. I was actually a senior software developer for over 10 years, and in actually different industries. So I've seen contact centers. I've actually have a bit of a skill set, and actually quite extensive skill set around voice. That was actually something that I was really in depth in before I moved into intelligent automation. But my role in SoftwareONE is actually quite unique. So right now I am the practice director of modern workplace within SoftwareONE for all of North America. So that includes US and Canada. So anything that your end user uses from a software perspective is actually something that we drive. So if your company is looking to move to the cloud, my team is actually the consultants and really the SMEs or the subject matter experts that we utilize for those type of workloads within SoftwareONE. Now, the other part of my role is I'm also the global product owner for intelligent automation. So one thing that I'm really tasked to do is drive and build the framework of intelligent automation globally for SoftwareONE. So that's actually including 80 countries. So, you know, I always tell my peers, you know, no pressure. But this is something that I've been passionate all my life. I am not a software developer now, but I still develop on the side because unfortunately I am a developer by heart. So building is what I do. So today I'm really just going to talk about 3 important things around intelligent automation. Intelligent automation can be something that, you know, a little overwhelming for a lot of folks. So I'm going to give you a few quick hits around intelligent automation so you can start looking into it for your businesses. No matter what size, no matter what vertical, I'm going to show you, you know, where you're going to go ahead and start, and, you know, how you're actually going to start incorporating intelligent automation, and obviously the why, right? So we're going to talk about those 3 W's here. And I'm going to show you real quick. Let me go ahead and move my slides over so it cooperates. Okay, so like I mentioned, we're going to hit the 3 W's today. We're going to talk about what intelligent automation is, why intelligent automation, what are the benefits and the values that you're going to get out, you know, once you start using intelligent automation into your processes, and of course, where, you know, where do you start? How do I know that the processes that I have within my business is actually good for intelligent automation? How do you, you know, find candidates for processes within your business? So we're going to walk you through those, but before I really dig deep and do a deep dive into intelligent automation, let me give you a few metaphors and baby step you into this world, because most people, once they start hearing intelligent automation, they always think, oh my God, these are robots taking over my job. Not quite, right? So we're going to start there. And this is actually something that I also address with a lot of my customers, is that once we start talking to them about automation, most of their employees get into that panic mode, right? Do I lose my job? Am I going to sit next to a robot tomorrow? So those are the type of things that we also address to make sure that it is not something that you do in a silo, that you bring your organization with you. So success is always good when everyone is winning, right? As they always say. So let's start with the what first, okay? So what is intelligent automation? So intelligent automation is not a single product, right? You can't just go to CDW and say, hey, let me buy quantity 1 of intelligent automation. Same thing as SoftwareONE. It's not a license. It's not a SKU. It's not, you know, a product that you can actually buy off the shelf. Intelligent automation is a concept. It is a framework. It is a methodology. So it's a lot of things. But essentially, what it's really telling you is using automation to make your job a bit more easier, right? A bit more streamlined, saving you some time, saving you some costs. So intelligent automation is actually you know, made up of a few parts, a few components. And I'll kind of walk through these 5 that we've recognized within the market that are actually most in demand and the most used. So the first one is business process orchestration. Basically, it's just a fancy way of saying that we are going to automate your processes end to end. So if you are, for example, an accounts payable and you always have to process invoices, POs by hand, well, guess what? We can actually automate that now. If you are in contracts management and you guys have to process contracts by hand, input into the system by hand, go into your ERP system by hand, and essentially do it over and over again, guess what? We can automate that now. The next one is robotic process automation. This is actually the scariest one that most employees talk about. You know, they always think that this is going to be Westworld, where they're going to be robots and you can't tell human from robots anymore. Actually not the case. So robotic process automation essentially means that it's going to mimic some of the human interaction. So it can actually mimic your mouse movements, it can mimic your clicks, it can even mimic your copy and paste. So for example, if you always have to open a PDF, copy something and paste it into your ERP system or into your Outlook or into a spreadsheet, for example, RPA or robotic process automation can actually automate those tasks now. Now, of course, the panic mode sets in where you're saying, well, does that mean that my job is eliminated? Not quite. The good thing about intelligent automation is it is augmentation. So what does that mean? If we save your employees time from doing these mundane, trivial things that they do day in and day out, guess what? They're going to have more time to actually do things that are more important. So things that actually drive value in your business. Maybe it increases your customer experience. Maybe it increases your customer satisfaction. Maybe you're giving them more time to actually talk to customers instead of doing back office stuff. So that's the type of mindset that we're trying to drive in the market, that intelligent automation is not about job elimination. It is about skill set augmentation so that you can actually drive a lot of your human effort into things that matter. So this is why RPA is actually a key factor of that. The next one is low code. You're going to find now, especially in the Microsoft space, that they are driving low code across the board. This means that a lot of the things that you want to build, you don't need to learn how to write code anymore. It kind of makes me feel sad that I'm a bit obsolete, but basically what they're trying to tell folks is that you can now build applications without having to write code. They're making it very easy now. You can actually create chat bots now through the UI. Basically, you can just go into a web portal, put your questions in, and then put your answers together so that you can create it without having to learn how to do .NET or SQL or any of that. You can actually do it through the web portal, and it's quite intuitive. You can just do drag and drop, save it, and it's real time. As soon as you start it, it's just good to go. So it's one of the things that's enabling a lot of end users, that you don't have to be a software developer to be able to introduce intelligent automation into your business. The next one is automated flow. This is something that we use daily in SoftwareONE. Essentially what this means is that you can actually have something happen based on a trigger. So what does that mean? For example, if you get an email, you want it to do something, or you want it to save something, or you want it to forward to somebody. Obviously a bit more complex than that, but essentially what you can do is that if something happens, you can make it trigger something else. Right? So maybe if you get an email with a PDF, save it somewhere. Or if you get an email with a PDF, check the information in the PDF, save it somewhere, or input it into a spreadsheet, or input it into your ERP. But essentially, you can now actually trigger a task based on certain events that happen in your daily basis. Last but not least is cognitive services. This is really the sexy part of intelligent automation. Essentially, what this means is that you are now able to introduce AI into your business without having or requiring machine learning expertise. So you can now, provide, the cognitive services, which is essentially different type of senses that you can mimic. So now they have the ability to hear, they have the ability to speak or search within your applications. The biggest example that I would give you is that you can now take pictures of documents. So for example, if you like to take pictures of invoices, AI or the cognitive service can now actually grab all that information from the image, and you can do anything with that data, right? With that metadata. You can either have it saved to your ERP system, you can have it email you, you can have it saved to a database, but essentially you can actually now mimic some of that human interaction so that you will save some of that human effort, right? So kind of automating and streamlining that process. So in a nutshell, intelligent automation is actually made up of a few components. And of course, you can use all of them at the same time if you want to. And this is what they call hyper automation, which means a lot of automation together. Or you can also do automation in little pieces. And I'll kind of talk about that on really starting that journey. Where do you start? How small do you start? And how much do you tackle first? So we'll talk about that in a few slides down. But before I kind of talk a little bit about that, let me give you a few analogies, because I don't think a lot of people realize that intelligent automation is actually a part of our everyday lives quite extensively. So let's start with one real quick. Everybody loves makeovers, right? Especially home makeovers. Specifically me, I love Fixer Upper. That's my show. So the one thing that I always tell customers, and one thing that we really try to evangelize at SoftwareONE, is that when a problem or a pain point is relatable, most people understand it. So this is hopefully something that will help you. When you have kind of an outdated home, right, and you want to spruce it up, and you're making, a lot of people are now making it smart homes, right? So doing solar panels, automatic lights, your garage, you can control with your phone. Well, for you to transform, it needs a bit of work, right? You're going to need different tools. You're going to need different products to do that. You're going to need to maybe buy a smart speaker, smart plugs, a smart TV, you know, a Ring, for example, smart security. And actually, most of these I have in my house, right? And of course, you're going to need some people to help you get there, right? So maybe construction workers, obviously consultants possibly, and, you know, contractors to do that. And once you're transformed, you kind of get to that end state, right? Now that you have a smart home, now you can actually just go to your phone and turn off your lights when you're not at home. You can now turn on your thermostat when you're not at home, turn it up and down. You can even open your garage remotely. So intelligent automation is the same concept. So anything on the left-hand side are basically all the manual processes that you're doing today. So the manual processes of invoicing, PO, finances, even contracts, for example, would be a good example, right? And once you start introducing intelligent automation, you then get to that smart home end state where, well, it takes a little bit of human interaction, but then you still get to what you want to do, right? So basically, you no longer have to get up to turn off or turn on your lights. You can now do it through your phone. You still get to the same end state, meaning either your lights are on or off, but now it's very minimal effort on your side. So now you have more time to actually do the things you want to do. So that's a good example of intelligent automation. And I'm sure a lot of you actually resonate with that, because most people don't realize that intelligent automation is part of their lives. So that's one. The next one is actually something that I also, you know, closely to my heart: chores. Nobody loves doing chores. Some people probably like doing chores. Love, though, love is a strong word. So why do we not love doing chores? One, it's a lot of effort, especially if you have a big house. It is a lot of effort, right? It keeps you away from what you truly want to do. So I would rather be sitting at home watching Netflix, for example, but sometimes we have chores to do. We have to put the dishes in the dishwasher, do laundry, right? So yes, I would love a Jetson's house, actually. That would be awesome. But as you can see, chores, yeah, it's part of our daily lives. It's something that we have to do. We don't like it because it's boring and mundane, and it's repetitive, right? And it requires a lot of different tools, and it requires a lot of effort. So not fun at all. Well, this is something actually that's been around for quite a while. The Roomba. The Roomba is actually intelligent automation. You know, of course, it doesn't address everything. It doesn't do your laundry, although I did see that they now have things that actually fold your clothes. So that was kind of amazing, although it's still really expensive. But as you can see, intelligent automation is actually part of a lot of people's lives, especially now that it is becoming commodity, right? It's getting cheaper and cheaper for things to be automated. So the upside of doing intelligent automation when it comes to chores, well, guess what? No effort. You just turn it on. Actually, it turns itself on now. You know, it even charges itself. You don't have to do anything. You know, just little effort at all. Less time, right? It's now more efficient. It knows where to go. It knows what to clean, and it's very focused. It's very specific in regards to the set of instructions it needs to do. The Roomba knows it needs to go around the house, clean the floors, and go back to where, you know, the docking station and charge itself. It's definitely more efficient, and there's less human error, right? And now that you have a Roomba, you can now spend, you know, more time doing the things you like to do. So that's also a good metaphor for intelligent automation, okay? So now that you have a better understanding of intelligent automation, what is everyone else up to? So we always wonder, you know, as a company, as a business, no matter what size, you always wonder, am I alone in this journey? What is everybody else doing? Should I do it now? Is everybody doing it now? Or do I wait, right? Sometimes we kind of get into that bandwagon state because sometimes we're fearful of change. Change is important, absolutely, but sometimes change can be scary. So sometimes I always tell customers, you're not allowed, you're actually not alone in this journey. A lot of customers that I speak to, and I speak to them quite significantly in my day job, are actually starting to think this way. So I'll kind of give you a few statistics that we've gathered, and these are obviously based on Gartner, Forrester, and of course, Microsoft. Microsoft is one of our biggest partners. SoftwareONE is actually, if not the biggest, one of the biggest partners globally for Microsoft. So we work with them closely. So I'll kind of give you a few stats that we've learned in this journey as SoftwareONE. First, 65 is a high number. 65% of all application development will be low code by 2024. What does that mean? More people will be enabled to make their own applications. Now, it doesn't mean software developers are obsolete, because there's still going to be complex jobs for them. But for the mundane tasks that you want to automate, you can actually do it yourself. And you can do it yourself now. This was done in 2019. So they already saw it coming in 2019. And this is now 2 years later. They predict still that there is going to be a high percentage of low code by 2024. So that's significant. 65% is actually quite high. The next one is that they are anticipating around 30% of potential savings and operational cost by using hyper automation in 2024. You always think hyper automation, that sounds, kind of amazing. What is hyper automation? It just means a mix of automation, right? So basically you're using AI, you're using business process flow, you're using different things, cognitive services together, and that is what they call hyper automation. So basically they're saying that by introducing intelligent automation to your business, you actually will save cost. And I'll talk a little bit on how that actually happens. Okay, so 30%, not bad. I would love 30% in savings. All right, next is 70%. So we're getting higher on the scale here. 70% less application development cost and effort using low-code platforms. And this is actually from Microsoft. And I'll talk about Microsoft and why this is important to them a little bit later. But essentially what they're saying is that it's not a secret. Software developers are not cheap, especially the more complex ones. They're not cheap. So by enabling your end users to be able to create their own applications, to automate some of their tasks, especially within departments, you actually save an application development cost in the long run. So basically, it's kind of a win-win situation, right? So now you can have application developers really focus on the big ticket items. And then at the same time, you're enabling your end users to say, hey, look at your own businesses, look at your own departments, evaluate your own processes, and see which ones you can automate. I've actually spoken to a few customers, which is really something that excites me. A lot of them have never done software development before, something that they've never done. They've never understood software development. They just always thought it was magic, that it just happened, right? They never understood what happens when you're building an application. And in the past year, they've built applications themselves. And of course, it's very straightforward, right? Sometimes it's really just you fill in a form and then email somebody and then they have to approve it. And they think, to them, oh, that's not a big deal. And to me, it is a big deal, because 5 years ago, no one would even really try to do that for themselves. But now, because they're empowered to do it, a lot more people are now looking at application development and undertaking that task themselves. So if you are in that space and you question yourself and you're doubting yourself, I don't know how to do this, I've never coded before. Well, guess what? You don't need to learn how to code anymore. You can absolutely do it, and you're going to find that you are able to do it on your own. I always tell a lot of folks this. At the end of the day, we all have access to the same data, right? Technically, you could Google anything, and we Google the same information, right? The data is there. You just really have to spend time to actually ingest it and try it yourself. There is no harm in basically failing fast. That's something that we do at SoftwareONE. Do now, ask for forgiveness later. So I really encourage each and every one of you to look into it, do it yourself, and you're going to be surprised on the things that you can do on your own. And obviously, you can leverage us to help you, but I've really found a lot of folks especially women who have never touched code before, who can actually create applications. It really just takes a little bit of creativity and a bit of time, but you can definitely get there. All right, the next one is, and this was, let me tell you, this is a bit dated. This was in 2018. 57% of companies have already started on this automation journey. 57. So if you're talking to a lot of companies, half of those companies most likely automated at some degree, right? It could be something small. It could be that they're still starting in that journey. But 57% of companies is quite a significant number of companies, right? So, so just know that this is actually something. So imagine how it is now. This was in 2018, and it's already 2021. So I can only imagine that this number is much, much larger now, especially around the pandemic. The pandemic really forced a lot of companies' hands into making sure that remote worker strategy is efficient, and that they can actually save a lot of time, because, you know, the whole thing just changed for everybody. The game just changed significantly for everybody. So now a lot of companies are a bit, you know, getting a bit more creative to really get to where they need to be. And automation is one of those things that's really helped a lot of companies through the pandemic. Okay, so 57%. So think of that. If you're not in that 57%, yeah, maybe you should think about it, because if this is something that everyone is thinking about, I'm going to talk to you a little about competitive advantage, okay? And we're going to talk about customer challenges after that. Okay, last but not least, and this is the big ticket statistic that I'm going to give you, is that 54% of companies are going to increase their automation budget, okay? This is important because automation has never been top to mind for a lot of companies, right? It's a nice to have. It's not something that you put on your budget, to be honest. It's something that, oh, we have extra money this year. Why don't we put it towards automation? Well, it's different now. And this was actually based in 2020. So this is the most recent stat that I have. 54% of companies are really now focusing and putting it into their budget with intent to actually do automation within the company. So it's no longer an afterthought. It is something that most companies are really looking into seriously to make sure that they are really starting to invest into that automation journey, right? So this is now no longer a nice to have. It is something that's actually required for some companies. And I'll tell you a little bit as to why. All right, so hopefully that helped you. Okay, so kind of tells you a little bit on the landscape and why everyone is interested in intelligent automation. Okay. The next one is customer challenges. So this is something as a partner, you know, especially SoftwareONE, and I'm sure this is something that you see across the board. We have to understand our customers, right? What are their pain points? A great salesperson actually told me, sell to the pain, not the problem. And you're probably thinking problem and pain, they're the same thing, right? What's the difference? Pain is personal. So what I mean by this is that when you talk to, let's say, a CTO or a CIO, you always ask them, you know, most sellers ask them, what's the problem you're trying to solve? And of course, they're going to give you a big picture problem that the company's trying to solve, right? Like, we're trying to reduce costs or something like that, right? But you should actually change it a little bit. You should ask them, what is painful to you? What is causing you a lot of pain? And what we've found is that if you sell to the pain and you understand a customer's pain, because pain is personal. Basically, this is something that affects me on a daily basis. And understanding that pain is what will actually give you success. Meaning, if you're really trying to help somebody, help their pain, not their problem. Okay, so hopefully that kind of helps you. Because what I'm trying to really understand, especially as SoftwareONE, especially as someone who's trying to grow a practice, you have to understand your customer's pain. So these are the top 5, I believe, pain that we've recognized in the space. And this is regardless of size, regardless of industry, regardless of vertical. The first one that we've recognized is most companies don't really have the capacity to innovate faster. They would love to be automated, but sometimes they don't have the resources or the bandwidth to do that, right? So essentially what we're trying to say is, how much time does your company take to build the business applications that are in demand? And you see this from a different departments. You know, AP or accounts payable could look to you and say, hey, when are we going to update our ERP system? And of course, IT was like, oh, I would love to update your ERP systems. It's outdated. The version is old. But guess what? Either we don't have the budget, we don't have the resources. No one's touched that thing in years. We're not supposed to breathe on it because if we do, it breaks. You know, how many times have you guys heard that? That's actually a very common pain that we see with a lot of our customers. The capacity to innovate faster is not available. They would love to, the affinity is there, but the capacity is a different story. Okay, so that's the first pain that we've seen. The second one is that there's no competitive advantage. So remember, I mentioned a while ago that, especially if you are in a space where you have a lot of competitors, and if 57% of those competitors are already thinking about automation and you're not, well, guess what? That's another losing thing that you're going to have to make sure that you somehow figure out, right? So some of these customers that we're talking to, that because they're not efficient and their competitors are, yeah, that's how you lose business sometimes, right? You always have to think about the space you're in, and that's why I always say, what else is everybody doing? So start thinking about your competitive advantage, and people don't even really put intelligent automation and competitive advantage together, but guess what? When you introduce intelligent automation into your business, it actually increases and makes the end user experience better. So how many times have you guys, gone to a company website and you love it when they have chat bots that you can just chat on their website because no one really picks up the phone anymore. So if you can chat somebody, yes, winner, right? So those are the type of competitive advantages that you like, right? So this is true of the different verticals, those little things that you see that the company is innovating and making available to their end user, that's actually what wins a lot of customers. That's one thing that you have to think about. The next one is no automation of manual tasks and processes. And this is actually evident for a lot of customers. We see this in the enterprise space. We see it in the small to medium businesses, that many processes are still done by hand, right? And most companies still keep hiring to keep doing those manual processes instead of thinking, how can we actually automate these things? Because, as I mentioned before, automation was never something that was top to mind, which has obviously changed recently. But this was actually something that we've seen with a lot of customers, right? Not a lot of processes are automated in the space, which is a problem. And this is why this is a customer challenge. Next is missing application integrations. There's actually 4 customer challenges, not 5. But basically, the last one is a lot of applications that most companies have are outdated. So you're going to see a lot of companies that still have legacy systems. Some of them are not in the cloud. They're still sitting in an old server in a data center. Some of them are probably end of life or end of support, right? And because they are old, they're missing application integration. So basically, you are running separate systems, disparate systems that don't talk to each other. All right, and which means that you're having issue with information management. I mean, how many times, and this is something that happens at SoftwareONE too, you have a lot of information, absolutely, the data is there, but it's everywhere. So for you to search for data is a mundane task. Basically, you have to check here, and you try to find it in your Outlook, and you have to try it in your ERP system. There's really no, what I say, centralized system of information. There is no audit trails. You can't tell who did what on when. And introducing intelligent automation is actually something that can solve that, right? So hopefully that kind of helps you why this is important, right? Understanding your pain, because all of these actually, what we say, increases your technical debt. Right? Technical debt as a company is something that really needs to be taken seriously, because the more technical debt you have, the more issues you're going to run into the future. So, less and better, basically your customer experience is diminished, or, it suffers from it. Your turnaround time suffers. Your information management suffers, like I mentioned. You're opening yourself up to risk. Right? If your data is not good, if the quality is not good, well, guess what? You may have some gaps into your business, right? So technical debt, if you kind of add all these problems together, is really something that's happening to a lot of customers, that you have a lot of deficiencies into your business. So the one thing that Microsoft did, because kind of moving to the next slide here, if you guys are familiar with Office 365, they just introduced their Power Platform, which is essentially their version of intelligent automation. But before they did it, they actually did an interview with a lot of different customers to understand market viability, right? It's normal. Basically, if you're going to release a product, you kind of need to understand if people are going to buy it, right? So this is something that they did with a lot of different companies. They talked to different companies, different personas, so basically different roles within a company. And they also did it globally to kind of understand if intelligent automation is actually something that's important globally, and if the applications that they're going to build is actually something that can be consumed. So based on that survey that they did, they kind of same thing in the customer challenges trail. They actually identified key challenges that they've seen, and those are the challenges that they're trying to address. So the first one is that IT had to support more first-line workers and mobile workers. This is actually good in the pandemic. This is actually something very evident in the pandemic now. I was talking to a security guy a week ago, and I told him, you know, it must be really weird for you guys during the pandemic. And he said, how so? Well, you know, last year, maybe I shouldn't say last year because I was 2020, 2 years ago, if you had to secure an office, you just had to think about the four walls within your office. So basically, if you're within the firewall, within your network, you're fine, right? Well, with the pandemic, the four walls moved. Now it could be a Starbucks or, you know, someone's house or someone's apartment or sometimes someone's basement. So how do you guys handle that, right? And those are the type of things that we're seeing in the IT space. The game has changed so much for them that they now have to worry about mobile workers. Before you had to worry about some of them, mostly salespeople, right? Field people. But now you have to worry about a lot more. Even the back office is now mobile workers. And first-line workers are essentially those people that talk to your customers first. So think about customer service representatives. If you're in retail, oops, let me move it back. If you're in retail, essentially, you know, if you're a Starbucks, it's the baristas, for example. If you're in healthcare, it's your nurses, you know, basically your patient advocates. So they're now supporting different and more mobile type of personas. The next one is that key business processes are still very manual. So I mentioned that before. They've also recognized that's something that's happening quite a bit globally. And last but not least, they've also seen that IT systems did not meet current needs. So this is actually something that I advocate quite a bit because as part of my practice, I have adoption and change management as well. And what I always tell a lot of our customers is that people is now an important part of this journey. If you remember years and years ago, if you release a product, right, IT releases a new software, for example, what really IT does, sends an email and says, yep, you can now use it. They cross their fingers and hope people use it, right? And if they don't use it, oh well, we already bought it, it's already out there, it's installed. If they don't use it, it's not my problem. Well, times have changed. Adoption and change management is actually something that's very important now. A lot of the KPIs that are driven by a lot of customers that we talk to is not only installation or deployment of products, it's actually consumption. Are people using the applications that I gave them? Are they actually, you know, using it the way it's intended? Or are they actually installing stuff outside our applications to meet the same demand, right? So the type of things that we are now seeing is that even if you release software, it's important that you get adoption, you get consumption, you get usage. It's the same thing with intelligent automation, right? We want to make sure that the process we're automating is actually meeting your business needs. Is this solving your pain? Because if it's not, it doesn't really mean anything. We're here to save you time and save you cost. And if it doesn't do that, then what's the point of doing it? So we want to make sure we actually address that. And of course, limited budget to make changes, right? At the end of the day, money drives most of these things. And budget is obviously something that's important. But the good thing is that most of these intelligent automation initiatives are no longer in the millions, right? Before, if you had to automate something, it would cost you an arm and a leg. But now they're actually making it part of a lot of products. If you are, for example, in Office 365, most likely you have access to the Power Platform already. It's probably part of your license already. So they're making it more of a commodity and making it cheaper so a lot more people have access to it. So that's from Microsoft's point of view. But as you can see, it actually relates to everything else, right? Basically, this is something that we're seeing across the board, regardless of vendor. All right, so a few results that we've seen after introducing intelligent automation, okay? And this is something that we've actually seen with actual customers that we've released software or automated processes for. The first one is streamlined processes and enabling business transformation. So basically what that means is that we have saved workers hours and hours of wasted time. So those hours that they spent clicking and copying and pasting and doing and scanning, guess what? It amounted to 122,000 hours. That's a lot of hours. Can you imagine how many hours you've saved, right? So that is something that's actually quite important, right? If you save 2 hours, and you're like, that's not a big deal. Well, guess what? It actually compounds. If you look at a year and if you stop doing these trivial repetitive tasks, it can amount to 100,000 hours of workers' hours saved. And you can actually possibly reduce your FTEs or full-time employees if you automate some of these things. I know I talked about job elimination and that's not a thing, but eventually you can move them off to actually different positions that matter, right? Instead of, yep, I hired this person to do the invoices because we have to do it by hand. Well, guess what? Maybe they can do something else now. Maybe they can actually do real AP stuff instead of invoicing. So those are the type of things that you really need to consider. Next one is development and power apps and flow, save money. And this is specific to Microsoft, but basically what it says is that intelligent automation saves you money. So the cost reduced with application development, because now you don't need software developers, 70%. Imagine saving 70% of your budget because you didn't have to hire so many people to do the same things. Amazing. I would love that so that I could spend it in more things that are actually of high. Sorry, I guess I muted myself. I apologize. Good thing I was paying attention to the ATW. So hopefully you guys caught most of that. I wasn't sure how much I actually muted. But basically, the last but not least, and I'll send you guys a copy of this slide anyway, but IT organizations are now more responsive to business needs. So basically what that means is that because they now have to maintain less, they now have more time to be more responsive, more reactive to business needs. So IT is now not spending so much time trying to fix all these legacy systems, all these servers and everything else. They now have more time to actually sit down with department heads and essentially understanding what is your pain, what do you need fixed, what are you trying to get to, what are you trying to automate. Now we have more time to actually be more kind of collaborative in a sense, to make sure that the business continuity is there. So that's one thing that's actually something that's not tangible, right? But it's that people factor and really working technology into your business so that you can spend more time doing things that are more important. Okay. All right, let me move on to the next here. All right, so techniques used in intelligent automation, and I'll call out 4 that we use quite a bit. Intelligent automation can look at images, can look at documents, and actually scan them and basically save all that data for you. So you don't have to type all of them. The most important one, or the most common one that I see, are people taking pictures of invoices, documents, so that they don't have to type it up, and that it just saves it into their ERP system, right? So invoice scanning is the most common one. Passport face detection, you guys have seen that, right? That's actually intelligent automation. Face verification, even that temperature checks that they do now with COVID, actually intelligent automation. So that's actually part of cognitive services, so that now the basically intelligent, or the AI mechanism, can now just look at someone's face and recognize them, right? So Face ID, for example, is intelligent automation. Next one is reading and understanding. So if you love chatbots, right? If you go to your retail store's website and you can chat a bot to check your order, that's actually intelligent automation, right? And then if they can't answer, they send you to a representative, also intelligent automation. So remember that flow where, yep, I can't answer a question, it has to get routed to a real person. that's actually something that's done through intelligent automation as well. So reading and understanding and basically mimicking natural speech is actually also part of intelligent automation. So those chatbots that you talk to is something that's quite common in the IA space. Next one is decision making, right? So this is actually something that's important, but not used widely, and I really hope they did. Basically, what we're really trying to drive is that intelligent automation can augment your employees' decision making. So what does that mean? Unfortunately, there is human error, right? And sometimes if you're having a bad day, you miss stuff. It just happens. But intelligent automation can actually call out things that you may miss. So things, it can see patterns, it can see information that's missing, it can even see nuances. So what does that mean? So basically, if it's already processed thousands and thousands of invoices and it caught one that was missing some type of information, it'll call it out to your employee, so your employee can flag it and basically dig a little deeper. Like, why is this one different? Right? But those are the type of things that decision making can actually help, right? So risk assessment. So for example, if you are part of things that need compliancy and you need some things flagged, if it's out of whack or if it's something that's out of the norm, that's actually something that you can use with intelligent automation. And like I said, you can augment back office workers, right? So if they need to make certain decisions, AI can actually help you and tell you, yep, if this is the information I have, this is actually what you should do, right? So that's actually something that's quite, I think is quite powerful, but not a lot of people have used it quite yet because of the whole job elimination factor, right? But I really do think augmenting is the key to this piece. Last but not least is communication, right? So this is really something, I mean, if you talk to Google, you talk to your Siri, you talk to your Alexa, that's actually intelligent automation. So basically, when you are able to have human-like conversations with applications, that's part of intelligent automation. So if you have a virtual assistant, right? So, I mean, I'm guilty of that. I talk to my Siri just to ask for weather. You don't have to Google it anymore. That's the type of ability that you can do and introduce into your business. So, for example, maybe looking up an invoice, you know, how much was the invoice? What's this line item? So it doesn't always have to be the weather, but it's actually something that you can introduce as well. Yeah, absolutely. Natural language processing, or what they call NLP, is actually something that's quite used in the chatbot game. So a lot of chatbots are built around NLP. Okay, we're almost there, I promise. All right, so I'll give you an example real quick of a poorly or a non-automated process. And this is probably something that happens in your companies now. So I hope this resonates with you. So first, you get an email, right? You open the email. Oh, it's a bill. No one loves receiving bills, but you get a bill. You open the bill and you check the bill. So that one, so far, you spent, well, I wouldn't say 63 minutes, but basically, on average, it takes us an hour to open an email, unless you're really diligent about your inbox. I'm not. I'm terrible at this. But basically, let's say 30 to an hour before you open the email. You open the email, it takes a minute. You read the email for about 3 minutes. You check the bill, right? You copy and paste the information into Excel, which is something that most people do. That takes about 5 minutes, so not so bad. And you're probably thinking, this is not bad. It's only a few minutes of your day. You send the bill to the cost owner because it needs to be approved. So that takes about 3 minutes. You write up an email, attach the PDF that you just received, and send it out. Okay. The other person receives it, and it takes about 2 hours before you got the approval, because, you know, people are busy, unfortunately. And then they approve the cost by email. It takes them about 3 minutes. And then last but not least, it then gets posted into your ERP, which could take another 2 hours, right? And the ERP part is only 15 minutes. So if you look at it at a kind of a low level, you look at each task, you're thinking, that's not really a whole lot of time, you know? That's only, what, 20 minutes of my day? Not so much, really. So if you kind of keep doing this repetitively, in total, and this is including the wait times in between, that entire process took 330 minutes total. That's a long time, right? And you're thinking, God, and I do that 10 times a day? What a waste of minutes. Absolutely, I agree with you. Well, let's look at a equivalent of it in automated fashion. So you get the email, same thing. We trigger a flow that says, hey, she got an email with a PDF. Took half a minute, okay? Once that flow is triggered, okay, it checks the bill because it reads the PDF. So you don't even have to check the bill, you know, it'll do it for you. And then it'll send an approval to the cost owner, okay? The approver gets the email. And of course, there's still some caveats here because maybe it'll take them a bit to read the email. But let's say they actually did it efficiently and it took them 15 minutes. Within that 15 minutes, they approved it. And all they really have to do is hit approve. They can reject it too if they want, but let's say they approved it. And then the flow that actually got triggered will then post it into your ERP. So all of that, and you're thinking it's about the same. No, actually not so much. That one took 21 minutes. So from 330 minutes, we diminished it to 21 minutes. And this is an actual thing that we automated for a lot of our customers. This is an actual example that we did. What we do is that we baseline the process first because people love numbers, right? So what we do at SoftwareONE is we sit with you and we play this game, which is called A Day in the Life. So we watch you do your thing. So basically we kind of watched you the entire process and understood what the human behavior is like so that we know that once we automate it, hey, guess what? You were at 330 minutes and we just diminished it to 21 minutes. Isn't that mind blowing? Most people don't realize it, right? Because they've been doing it over and over and over again that they don't realize how much time is wasted. But once they realize how much time is saved, it kind of blows their mind. And that's what we're looking for is that aha moment, right? That, oh my God, I didn't realize how much time I've been wasting doing this. And this is what we're trying to kind of drive within the market, right? That you can actually save so much time by doing automation so that you can do more important things. I'm not here to remove your job. I'm here to actually make sure that you can do more important things. So kind of in summary, what can intelligent automation do for you? One, of course, you know, create business applications to improve the capture of data. So I mentioned that now you can just take pictures of invoices and it saves it for you. You don't have to input it by hand anymore. It removes that human error factor. The next one is automation of basically integration of applications. So you can now integrate into your ERP, you can integrate into SharePoint, into your Outlook, into Word, your calendar, if you guys are using Teams. It's actually quite possible now to integrate to a lot of applications. One thing I will say is that a lot of manufacturers or vendors, you know, back in the day, a lot of products were very closed, meaning, nope, it's us, and you can't talk to anybody else. We can't integrate with another company. We can't integrate with different applications. It's us, and if you want to integrate, you got to pay us to do this. Well, the companies now in the past few years have realized that open source is actually the key to the game. Most companies will buy a product if you can integrate it with multiple different other things. And this is why the game has changed as well, that now more people are into API integrations, basically connectors, being open source, and to have that ability to be flexible. That's actually something that we've seen in the past few years. Next is automation, of course, the repetitive tasks that you hate, that painful task that you hate doing every day. We can automate that now, which is, to me, is a lifesaver. We can orchestrate entire workflows. So I mentioned before that entire process that I showed you that took 330 minutes. Well, guess what? We can automate it end to end, right? Even just as simple as kind of opening your Outlook and opening that PDF to more complex things about posting to your ERP system, right? So we can do that end to end now. And then last but not least is automating common tasks using cognitive services. So I mentioned, you know, using chatbots, scanning, face recognition, those type of things that are more complex is available through cognitive services. So in summary, what values do you see from intelligent automation? Saving costs, right? I talk about that a little bit. You can actually now save on operational costs and resources, so you don't have to hire as many people. You can also eradicate operational inefficiencies and redundancies. So what does that mean? If you're using software that does the same things, and now you can automate that task, saves you money, right? So you don't have to pay so much more licensing, so much more support. You can now get rid of these software that you don't use anymore because you've automated the entire thing. So you can actually look at more efficiencies within your business. Of course, the most common one is increasing business productivity and efficiency. So now you can get rid of those mundane tasks for your folks so they can focus on more important things. And of course, faster turnaround time. Who doesn't love meeting SLAs? And if you can even super exceed your SLA, even better, because it has that customer satisfaction value to it. But saving customers time and making sure that you can actually get faster responses to customers is something that's definitely a big win around intelligent automation. Last but not least is avoiding risks and gaining confidence, right? So now we are reducing human errors. So you know that the packing slip that you're getting is 100% accurate. There are now no more typos or any of that, right? Human error is now gone. And of course, improve visibility. So now we can actually audit everything a robotic process automation does. So from copying to pasting, every little click that they do, we can actually audit and log. So there's always that accountability that we know what the robot did, we know what the automated process did, because there's always that auditing and logging that's available to these, to intelligent automation. So you always will have that accountability, that traceability, that transparency, that if something was to go wrong, you can go back into the log and said, yep, we actually coded this wrong, or something was wrong with this invoice and we didn't account for it. So we'll have to add it into the logic. So those type of things will actually help you in your decision making as well. Okay. Okay, so I won't go through this, but I do want to call out a few use cases in finance and accounting. If you are in this industry, this is something that we've actually done for a few of our customers. For example, purchase order entry automation. We did it 100% automated. They realized ROI in 8 months. They are now at 100% accuracy rate. And then they have now 78% improved processing time. So now their POs actually churn faster. So that's really important. There's some other here that may be pertinent to you. For example, 3-way matching automation in a medical and a pharmaceutical company realized ROI in 2 months. 2 months, that's amazing to me. 2 months is actually quite fast. They improved their processing time by 90%. And they reduced their manual effort by 10%. That's only 10% of manual reduction, and yet they improved their processing time by 90%, right? You're probably thinking that doesn't add up. How is that possible? Well, guess if they actually automated the entire thing and removed the manual. And of course, there probably is requirement for that because of some compliancy, but that kind of just give you an idea that these are actual real stories that we've seen in the space, that intelligent automation definitely has tangible ROI. Okay, and look at that. So this is actually a good call out here. We have finished a PO automation and saved too much money in licenses and manual hours. So as you can see, this is actually something that's most common. And if you network later today, you're going to find a lot of people have been automating and you just didn't know it. And you're like, oh, I should have thought of that, right? So what next? So this is actually the last thing that I do want to talk to you about. What next? Now that you know about this, where do you start, right? So where do you even go, or how do you even know what process to do? So the first one that I always say is discovery. And this is something that I help customers with quite a bit. I always tell customers to nominate 1 to 3 processes that gives you the most pain. However, you need to be sure that it's something that's well documented and very repetitive. So what does that mean? If I tell you to do it 5 times and you do it the same every time, then that's a good candidate, right? Because people think that, if you do AI, they're going to go rogue and do whatever they want and just kind of do, take over the world. It's not how that works. So AI is a very, AI can obviously pivot and see patterns and data without, telling them where to look. But essentially, once you do intelligent process automation, it's a set of instructions that needs to be followed. Obviously, you can manage exceptions, but in a nutshell, basically, it's a very specific streamlined process, right? You do this first, and then this, and this, and this. If you nominate a process that's not well documented or is not repetitive, it's overly complex, it'll be a hard start for you, intelligent automation. So pick something easy first, right? Because what you're going to find, and we find this with a lot of our customers, you don't want to take on something that's too big, right? Especially with companies who are new to automation, you kind of need a quick win first. You need to prove to the business that automation is something that you need. So try to look for processes that are repetitive, that you hate, that you need a lot of manual intervention, and is actually repetitive. And it doesn't have to be, you know, that invoice PO processing. Even if it requires human interaction, like it needs a clicking and a pasting, and you go to this web portal, RPA can actually mimic all of your clicks and your mouse and your keyboard. So that's something that we can do for you. We have a tool, what we call a discovery tool. We put it on your computer. And I know you're probably thinking Big Brother, but we're only doing it for a few days. And what we do is we look at the things that you do day in and day out, and then we then recommend, do you know that you do this task over and over? You did it 10 times yesterday the same way. So do you know you can automate that? So we give you recommendations of tasks that you should automate without you realizing it. And of course, some customers will nominate their own, right? But if you're not sure where to start, we will be more than happy to play a day in the life with you and sit through your day and understand what you do, and then recommend what processes you should automate if you're really not sure. So discovery is the important piece, right? Understanding the process that you want to actually do. And like I said, go after quick wins. The next one is piloting it. So pick a couple of departments. AP is the most common one that we see. Procurement, contracts, manufacturing in the warehouse is also another thing that we see quite a bit. But basically, if you look into those departments that have the most repetitive tasks, pilot them. Basically pick a few champions. Pick an AP champion and say, I'm going to automate Linda's life, for example, right? She does all the contracts, all the invoicing. I'm going to automate her life and see how her life actually changes. And if it actually makes her more efficient, productive, actually happy. Did you know that employee satisfaction is heightened when you do intelligent automation? Because guess what? You're removing their pain, right? So now they're not doing these painful tasks that they hate doing. So piloting with a few departments is actually something that's quite important. Don't go big right away. You kind of have to baby step your world into this. So start with picking up 1 to 3 processes, pilot it, and then scale, right? So now that you've proven to the business that, yep, it's actually helpful, it's actually making my employees happy, now you look at bigger items, right? So basically looking at your ERP system, maybe looking at IT, maybe looking at customer service, your contact center. Start scaling into bigger things once you've proven in the pilot that, yes, this is something that we need in the business. Last but not least, of course, is transforming, right? This is kind of realizing your entire journey. Once you've understood what intelligent automation can do for you, now you look at it big picture, and basically being part of that 57%, right? Or that high percentage of 60% that have budget into intelligent automation. Start looking at transformation as a business as a whole. So start from the bottom up, right? And of course, the most important thing I will tell you is executive sponsorship, okay? Raise your hand that if you see an email from IT, do you actually read it? Most people don't, right? However, raise your hand if you get an email from a CTO. Do you read it? Yes, we read emails from people of authority. It's a known fact. So executive sponsorship is important. If you're going to undertake this, find someone up in your business who will sponsor you, because you will need that, right? Because it is human behavior. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, no, you can do this on your own. You need sponsorship because you will need a stakeholder to guide you through this, to navigate your business. It's not the technology part that you're going to have problems with. It's the navigation, the political red tape and everything else, because like I said, it goes down to change. Change is scary for a lot of people. But if you have sponsorship and leadership that truly believe in your vision, you will get there. Because like I said, if you send the email, probably won't read it. If it's something that's coming from your CTO, your CIO, your CEO, even something that's a department lead, your VP, for example, most likely they will read it, right? So just think of that the sponsorship is very important. And of course, the big ticket, that you will get out of this is ROI, right? So money saved, cost savings, of course, time saved. All of those will be realized because we will do a baseline for you to know where you stand today. It's kind of like a before and after, where you stand today, and then look at it in a year and see how much money you've spent how much money you've spent, how much money you saved, how many people you've actually, saved hours for, and of course, what your employee satisfaction looks like. Are they happier now that there's automation? So in closing, hopefully that's helped you guys, and hopefully Eris can help me field through some of these questions. If you do like to get in touch, here's my work email and my personal email, but obviously you can also hit me up on LinkedIn. Like I said, really, really honored to be given the opportunity to present to you guys. If you want to talk software development with me, intelligent automation, absolutely hit me up. I can talk about intelligent automation all day. But hopefully this has helped you guys in kind of realizing that journey.
This was so awesome. I was loving it. I always love hearing you talk about this. We did have 2 questions, and then we'll head over for a little bit more networking after this. And the first one we got in asked, in what areas has the automation focus occurred in the 57% that you gave earlier of companies? And what areas have they been focusing on as a
So is it more specific? Are you looking for like industry information? What I will do, so the good thing is that I actually provided the links as to where that statistic was from. So if you want to, and of course I can uncover it for you, because I don't think they made it vertical or industry specific, but I can definitely give you the entire study around it, that kind of what represents that number. But the deck, if Eris is going to share, you will have those specific links as to where we got those stats from. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, cool. And then the last one was, what expertise is critical to implementing intelligent automation? Like what expertise, I mean, obviously we're going to say, come talk to us at SoftwareONE. We get the expertise, but
Yes. So I will say this: there is no specific. What I mean by that is you don't have to understand software development. What you have to understand is how your business is run. What I mean by that is you really need to understand, in a nutshell, what your priorities are as a business. Is it cost savings? Is it turnaround time? Is it SLA? Is it increasing your NPS, for example, right? So understanding what your goals are so that you can look at your business and say, which of these processes actually drive that goal, right? So for example, if your goal as a business is driving your NPS higher, which is your net promoter score, basically how much do people like your business? How happy are they with your service? If that is one of your goals, you have to then look at the processes that drive that. So for example, if you have a contact center and most of your complaints as to why your NPS is low is because the customer service is not great, then look at maybe augmenting that or automating that, right? So to kind of answer your question, there is no specific expertise. You don't need to be a software developer. You don't need to understand, how to write code or how code is built. When it comes to automation, it's really understanding how your processes go. So you might have to sit with a few department heads, maybe even some of your colleagues, to understand how they do their jobs, so that then you can realize that, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be doing this by hand anymore, right? Why are we still doing this by hand? It's actually something that I always say in SoftwareONE, right? That we try to practice what we preach in SoftwareONE, but we're an enterprise company with 8,000 people in 88 countries. So can you imagine trying to get everyone together and say, okay, you guys need to stop doing this by hand? So it'll take time, right? And patience and a lot of political savvy, unfortunately.
change management.
So definitely, I wouldn't say you need expertise. You definitely need a better understanding of your business.
Awesome. Okay, so I think this was really helpful. The chat was like on fire the whole time. People who have experience with this, some people who are doing RPA stuff, people who have already gone through some. I see someone said they just finished a PO automation. It saved a bunch of money, a bunch of time. So this has been something that looks like people are tapping into. Again, thank you, Christy, so much. You will be getting a nice little Amazon gift card from us as a thank you for being our speaker tonight. You can use that to splurge if you've been doing any ordering online.
Let me just tell you a story. My mail lady is not happy with me. At one time, she came to my door and she dropped a few boxes. And my husband was actually outside, and he's like, are you okay? Like, you don't seem happy. And then she said, she just orders so much. And I'm not happy with it.
You should be happy. This is job security. I see some, what areas has, okay, somebody posted a question real quick. Is there a particular vertical you see the most value or that benefits the most from this?
Yes. I wouldn't say particular, but the most common ones that we see are manufacturing. Healthcare is a bit hard because of the compliances around HIPAA and everything, but we are starting to see in the healthcare. I actually just talked to someone in the West Coast, big healthcare firm. They are now looking to automate. Funny enough, you would think in healthcare this is not their top priority, but department moves. So apparently, because there's such a big multi-department, really big healthcare company, they now want to automate their onboarding process and moving people through departments. And you're thinking that's what you're looking to automate. So that was one. And the next one is they're looking to also automate their testing. So if you have websites that you want to test, applications that you want to test. For them, it was actually their patient portal. They were looking to automate that. So manufacturing healthcare is something that we do. When it comes to accounts payable and invoicing, that one is agnostic. We see it everywhere, regardless of vertical. So that's actually something that happens quite a bit. And of course, a lot of application or software development houses are looking at automation now for some of their for example, what David mentioned around automating their DevOps and how to install code automatically. They don't do it by hand anymore, as well as their QA. So hopefully that helps. But right now, it's actually not a specific vertical that we're seeing. We just happen to really start talking to these type of folks quite a bit. But it definitely doesn't choose, right? You can definitely do automation regardless of vertical.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christy. We appreciate you. And if you have questions for Christy, we have a couple more minutes after this when we go back into the floor where you can try to find her and ask questions. And also you can reach out to me or Christy or Lindsay if you're interested in anything relating to intelligent automation. Thank you so much for joining us, Christy. I have a couple of announcements for the rest of the group right quick before we there you go. Before we go, we need some volunteers. We have a STEM Science Fair judges that we need coming up, and you can reach out to Suzanne Maletti. And also, if you want to just send an email to info@dfw.org, because I don't have the information on where they're supposed to go for that. So if anybody knows, maybe post it in the chat. And then we are looking for women in tech. ATW does a lot of nominations locally for our Dallas Business Journal awards that we do. So Women in Tech is one of them. And we have February let me see, hold on, 12th is the deadline. So if you have women that that are awesome, that are out here killing it in tech, make sure you reach out to us. Manny is our recognition and advocacy director. So if you can connect with her, or also again, info@dfw.atw.org. If you can't find any of us, then they will get you to us. But anyway, so we need recommendations, we need nominations, we need names, and we are ready to go. So without further ado, we're going to leave, get out of here, and go to the floor for a couple more minutes, and then let y'all have a good rest of your night. All right, see y'all later.